This massive shelter takes 3 minutes to build. In this video I'm going to give you a step-by-step tutorial followed by a second build from a fixed perspective, so you'll hopefully get a really good idea of how it goes together. I'm using a DD Hammock Superlight Tarp 3 by 2.9 meters, which they did send me for free, but they didn't ask me to do this video. I'm not being paid to do this, just wanted to put that info out there. For step one, we're simply pegging the tarp out in a nice big square. Then we're going to go to those rear two corners and we're going to unpeg the actual corner, but put a peg in each of the first loops one step in from the corner. If it doesn't make sense, that's why I've got all of these camera angles covered so you can see exactly what's happening on screen. Then we're going to fold that excess tarp underneath and repeat the process on the corner next to that. So when we view the tarp from the rear, you can see we've now taken those rear two corners in. Returning to the front view of the tarp, we're going to take the actual corner pieces and re-peg them at roughly the location of the next loop in towards what will be the centre of our opening. And what this does is create a huge amount of excess open tarp. Believe it or not, we're almost finished. We should have something that represents a wonky tombstone shape on the ground here, and now we need a guy line and a trekking pole to give this thing some structure. So I'm going to attach the guy line to the central loop on the front end of the tarp, but before we peg it down, we're going to add the trekking pole and see this shelter come to life. Now there's a little bit of customization that can go on here, depending on exactly how high the trekking pole is and where exactly you put it. You can create a much bigger or smaller opening at the front, which you'll see illustrated in just a second and with my second build of this. So once we peg that guy line in, we've got some sort of solidity to the structure, but to make it even better, we're adding a guy line to each of the spare loops on the front entrance of the tarp. And as you can see in this case, I'm pulling them back and looping it around the peg at the back of the tarp. So suddenly we've got something that actually looks like a proper shelter, and believe me, you won't believe how big this thing is inside. I was absolutely amazed when I first built one of these. Before we make this shelter even better, I want to add this clip here to illustrate my point about how you can alter how open the front of it is depending on your placement of the first trekking pole. So you can make it feel a lot more enclosed or have a lot more of an open and airy feel depending on the conditions. To make this structure even more solid and tent-like, we can add a second trekking pole, which of course gives it that extra bit of lift towards the back. And this is something that's an important note here. If we didn't have trekking poles and we were doing this in the woods, we could use the loops on top to pull the tarp upwards rather than trekking poles beneath it to push it upwards. I hope that makes sense. So these camping mats are 186 by 51 centimeters each, and you can see just how easily they both fit in and how much excess space there is. So before I rebuild this for you from a fixed perspective, I want to just recap at our materials here. We've got a roughly 3 by 3 meter tarp, 7 pegs, 3 guy lines, and of course the 2 trekking poles to give it some structure. You may have noticed I used a few extra pegs towards the end of that video just to peg down some of the spare loops. Those are optional, but I would say for the sake of a little bit of extra security and making it feel a little bit more perfectly pinned down, I would recommend doing so. Here you're seeing me build this again from that fixed perspective I keep talking about, and hopefully you can see I'm not rushing, I'm doing it at a nice gentle pace and nice and methodically for the sake of the camera and making it look like I know what I'm doing. And if anything, I'm almost tempted to turn this into a time-lapse because I'm taking too long to do it when I know how much quicker this can be done. Yet saying that, it still only took me 90 seconds to take it from the square pegged down to the ground to being an actual usable shelter. At this point, I should probably ask you to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you think this has been useful or helpful in any way. I certainly hope it has, because it took me far longer to film and edit this than it did to actually put the structure up twice. So please do subscribe, give the video a like, and check out my other videos, because I am going to have a huge amount of tarp and bivvy stuff coming, especially as the weather gets better, but especially with these sort of tutorials and interesting tarp setups. If you want to help support these videos, please consider becoming a channel member, a Facebook subscriber, a PayPal supporter, or leaving a super thanks, just like some of my recent supporters have done. That's A. Sanford, T. Seymour, The Yacht Captain, Fufarito, David D, Kaz G, and Sean B. Thank you very much, everybody. Until the next time, keep it tarp-worthy, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.